What is going on? Welcome to the next part of the YouTube sales series. It is currently Saturday at 8 p.m. I've been chopping up this next video, and then I remembered I don't have an intro. So here is the intro. In terms of today's video, it is a paid coaching call that I hosted with a very good friend of mine. I got some great feedback on it. Now, just before I break it down, I will put something, I don't even know what yet, in the description where you can access like the full coaching call. In terms of this one, I'm chopping it up. I want to make it a bit more punchy and all of that good stuff, okay? Now, this is with an amazing friend called Alfie Bates. I'll put all of his info in the description as well. He's been in the high-ticket space since around 2018. So he's not the guy that's collected 300K cash collected, thinks that that's an impressive number, and is now mentoring on Instagram Reels, right? He actually has a shit ton of experience. He has literally seen the industry evolve and grow. And we go into some deep topics. It's really cool. He starts talking about how we can get into the prospect's subconscious mind, the energy, his different viewpoint towards the report, and how we can build that. Lots of different stuff, which is really cool. So enjoy the video. I will catch you on the next one. Thank you all so much, as usual, for the support and just... goodbye. Okay, enjoy it. Exactly. So let's go into, I think you had like your own methodology, right, when it comes to selling.
I do.
I like it.
It's called RISE. Oh, it's an acronym.
Yeah. I'm rising just hearing about it.
Oh, prove it. So the R stands for rapport, right? I'm a little bit different to a lot of folks. I do believe that rapport is phenomenal if used wisely and pulled off correctly. You're not asking someone if they're, Pisces or where do they live and do they like living in Iowa, all of that boring stuff. But if you can expertly pull off rapport, I think it is the foundation for the rest of the sales call, because they're going to open up more in the discovery. They're going to trust you more. They're going to listen better. They're going to be better influenced, which is I, right? And that... it's a little bit more kind of NLP based. I'm not the biggest fan of emotionally manipulating people anymore. I used to like it when I was younger, asking people like, so if you don't do this, man, I mean, your fucking life's going to fall apart. How does that feel? Can't be bothered with that anymore. For me, I prefer dealing with guys that have already got their head screwed on. They know, they don't need to be dragged across the finish line. But, with like fitness offers, you've got to do that. With info product offers, you've got to do that. But I think that if you can subtly do that without needing to say it, if you can use NLP to label them as someone that takes action, label someone that, is here to make change immediately, I think you can subtly influence them where they then think it's their idea rather than yours. S is subliminal, which, Scott, I'm a very big fan of, the subliminal selling. I think you can genuinely raise your close rate by changing your Zoom background. I had a new coaching client one-on-one called Lucio, awesome dude from New York, and we jumped on and we did a call review. First ever, that's way I get a good lay of the land. The good old Templar helmet close, absolutely. So this guy's maybe 20 years old. He's been in high ticket sales 6 months. He's a closer, and he starts playing this call review, and I'm like, and it's just this black, like a black bed sheet behind him, right? I was like, what are you doing? It genuinely looked like he was living in like the slums of Venice Beach or something, and he was in a tent, plugged up to the local lamppost to get electric or something. Absolutely ridiculous. And obviously we changed that, right? I helped him get some lights, I helped him move around in his room so he could position himself with good lighting and not look, like he'd been kidnapped and was being held against his will. And immediately he was getting a better close percentage, which it's not hard if they think, what's this guy, especially if you're selling something where there's a financial ROI and you look as if you've never made a penny in your life. I mean, you have to do something with your background. And there's so many subtle things you can add to your background that I can go into in a bit. But yeah, background is money. So it's like, it is your version of like smelling good and having good fragrance in person, having a good background.
Piggybacking off of that, like taking on that ATM offer, he was literally the exact reason that I upgraded everything. It's when I had, obviously in the last place, when I got guitars on the wall. I've got this, which some of you guys have seen, but like this thing is too bright in my current setup to actually put up because it just completely like darkens me out. But this is what we mean when we say subliminal messaging as well, right? So like, don't quit, but it says fucking do it. This would have slapped on a sales call. It doesn't really work in my room; it's too small in this office right now. But like, I can tell you in terms of like, because on what Alfie said there around the report, that's kind of opposite to what I say in the sense of like I just dive straight in and I build rapport and trust throughout the call. The reason that I typically say that and coach on that is because most people can't do like a natural form of report. It's like forced. It's very like, oh, where are you based? Okay, cool. What time is it there? And it's just surface level shit, and that doesn't do anything. That kind of actually loses respect. But the most common talking point that I ever had on sales calls jumping on in report was just the level of quality. Like, oh my God, your background, dude, that's so sharp. Like, well, where'd you get that camera and all this shit? And then I can actually talk to them a little bit and I'll build a bit of a bond. So shout out to this guy for leveling my shit up.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm a big believer in it. You know, you can see what I've got. I try to gatekeep the book a little bit because I think all of my clients have got this book. You ever see someone with that book? They've been coached by me. I don't want everyone to start having the book, but just do it. The amount of time, especially on info products, but just on anything in general, where someone's gone, you know what, I never make decisions like on the first call, but something just feels right. I just feel ready. Yeah, I just feel good. I got believe up there. I used to have relax up there instead. Um, I'm sure you guys have maybe picked up on this, or maybe it's just my autistic brain, but um, I don't know if you've ever been having a conversation with someone and they've said a specific word, and then you end up in your next sentence saying that word because they had said it. Like the brain is like a sponge, and people don't realize how much you can infiltrate the subconscious by saying certain words. Um, it's crazy. Like when I'm transitioning from maybe the discovery to the pitch, or the classic pitch where it's split up into three parts, right? Phase one is this, phase two is this. I will say buy now probably 10 times on a sales call. I'll say, so that's the end of phase one. Buy now, Scott. Do you have any questions on any of the, yes, I do know what Hawkins. Buy now. That's the end of stage one. Do you have any questions? Do you have any red flags, any green flags? You know, get everything out in the open. All right, that's the end of phase two. Buy now. Do you have any questions? I'm just peppering their subconscious with buy now. BUY now. Works a treat. And then E from Rise is energy. Jordan Belfort says enthusiastic as hell, or as enthusiastic as whatever he says. I mostly agree, but I think if you're doing B2B, you don't really want to be enthusiastic. I think for B2C, you want to be bouncing off the walls with energy and let the power of state transference echo through to them. But if you are strictly dealing with a bit of B2B, you want to be kind of mirroring their energy a little bit more, and having a more kind of CEO based tone. Yeah, so that's it. Rapport, influence, subliminal, and energy or enthusiasm, if you want to go that far.
Yeah. Juicy. Did anyone have any questions on that? Like little methodology
I
thing?
do.
Okay.
So can you go deeper into, because I'm noticing as I get advanced, I'm using a lot of those embedded commands of, okay, you seem very decisive, or I'll do these kind of identity casting things. And like just looking at your background, it seems like when you have the just do it, you have all these subtle things where that's really important to you. It's a core part of your framework. So like, can you go deeper into how you're actually thinking about implementing that? And are you doing it at the identity level? Is it just keywords of actions you want them to take? Like, what are the things that you're thinking about programming into the person's mind to get them to buy?
It's a great question. And I usually have no idea for the first week or two on a sales call until I really start getting the objections. So if I start getting, I really need to think about it, or if I realize that the funnel isn't warming them up enough with enough information, or if I'm getting, I need to, like a great example is they procrastinate. Something you can then do is ask them a question. Like I was doing this with a client this week of, you can ask them in the discovery, like, so I'm curious, Cole, like, what do you think has been or will be the biggest roadblock between your success, or with your success here. And before they answer, you go, "You're not a procrastinator, are you?" Right? And then what are they gonna go? "Yeah, I fucking suck." They're gonna naturally say no, right? It'd be socially weird for them to say no, or yes. Sorry, I beg your pardon. So they are going to say no. And you can go, "Oh, what a relief, man." And then you storytell. You go, "Oh man, there's one of my school friends. I love him to bits. He's coming to my wedding in a couple of months. I've got so much time for him, but it's rough, man. He's such a big procrastinator. I love him to bits. You just can't help him. They're so, if you can figure out a way to somehow joke about something with them, so it's kind of you and them versus the world, I find that really effective. So whether it's procrastinating, that's usually a big one. I need to think about it. Just removes that objection. So you're not handling it at the end of the call. You can kind of pepper it in. So if they were to say that at the end, it would be like sacrilegious almost. So kind of taking that frame throughout the call.
Okay.
Like, quickly on that, I feel like that's why there's people, and Alfie's a great example of someone that has that humor and that energy and that likability combined with sales skills and knowledge and all those things now, where it's like an amalgamation of the two together. But that's why I've seen a lot of the times like closers without experience can close at a decently high level because they have that energy and they're just that type of person, like a little bit jokey, a little bit back and forth, like, "Oh, you're not that kind of person, are you?" And it just works. And I've seen that countless times as well. So if you can combine those, and how many times have I given the advice, like the number one thing that I would do is use some form of humor. Like my way to handle the objection on when I was running that agency of like, "Well, I just saw your guys' ad," is like, if there was like, a beautiful woman laying on the beach on that ad, maybe I'd be like, fair enough. But it was a pretty boring ad. So I'm going to assume there's something on there that you felt like could help for you. What was that? And it's like, boom, humor. They're going to laugh, especially in the agency I was running. It was like construction owners. They're going to laugh. It's going to lighten the load. And then they're going to tell you the fucking truth. It's no longer, "Oh, I just clicked on an ad." It's like, "Well, yeah, I do want more leads." Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that we actually are aligned on that. So it's like, if you can be likable, you will close at a much higher rate.
Yeah, that's solid. I think that, I don't know if any of you guys have read Gap Selling, probably my favorite book in sales. Keenan, the author, talks about, and this is just so blatantly obvious, but the amount of one-on-one coaching clients I've had that just don't do this, and it's like the number one thing I handle with them is they don't know, they have zero intention behind their questions in the discovery phase. They're kind of just firing from the hip, hoping that the guy is just going to give them all of the juice. And you're going to occasionally get someone that just gives you all of the juice. You're like, "Hey, why are we here?" "Oh my God, let me tell you this. My mum did this, my dad." They're just going to go off on this tangent. But most people you need to crack open, and some you really, really need to crack open. But if you're not being explicitly intentional with your questions on why you're asking them, how do you know what answer you should get? How do you know whether he's giving you the right answer? So you then need to follow it up, just like Scott did beautifully with that analogy of the half-naked woman on the beach, which is a classic. But instead of just moving on to the next random question, so I get so many guys where they're like, "Yeah, my discovery, I just don't think I'm going deep enough," because you're asking question one, and then going to question two, and then going to question three. So it's not showing intention. That's a really great catch there. It's being intentional in your own head, right? So knowing, okay, I'm asking this question to get this out of him or to cover this base. So it's like not leaving any stone unturned. So not only are you asking a question about, "All right, so cool, like tell me a little bit about your current situation," and then you're not just going, "Cool, all right, nice." Or the classic that I remove from everyone on my sales team, "Gotcha." Stop saying that. Or "Awesome. Gotcha. 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 Gotcha." Shut up. Okay. So you ask question one. The way that you want to see this, and I always give this analogy because I used to play a lot of video games when I was in my teenage years, but I used to like the Batman games, right? Like Batman Arkham Asylum. I don't know if anyone's nodding away. Probably I'm the only nerd here, but you would build up these like combination punches, or like in Street Fighter or like Tekken or something. You'd build up these combo moves. You want to see the discovery like they are combination questions, right? Or like a boxing analogy. Okay, like you're not just going to try and throw these big like Mike Tyson knockout punches because you're up against a heavyweight fighter. You need to be putting you might throw the first punch that just kind of lowers their guard. You might then go to like a gut shot to really lower their guard, and then you go for the money shot in the face, right? So you might ask question 1A, question 1B, and then question 1C, and then question 2, rather than like follow up on your questions instead of just jumping from question to question to question to question to question, and then you're wondering why. And there's no fluidity to it. It has to be a conversation. I always say, like, imagine you're like a great example is, me and Scott. If Scott hit me up and I was in England and he said, "Listen, I'm looking at scaling my business, or I know that you've scaled something in marketing before. I want to start a marketing company." Right, super random. Do you mind if we go out for dinner? Or do you mind if we grab a drink or something and talk about it? That's how you want to see your discoveries, like two friends having a beer, two friends having dinner, and you're really trying to get a good lay of the land of exactly where they're at. If anyone else is like European or not from the US, you can jump into so many different. I've got one other thing to say on rapport as well, which I think is fucking brilliant that no one else does. But you can, traveling is such an easy thing to get into. I say, oh, they obviously, I point out that I'm not Australian and that I'm English, first of all, that I get all the time. And they go, oh, have you been to Europe? Oh, well, I went to, and they'll tell me how they've been to Scotland and how they've been here and they've been here. So yeah, it just gets them into a state of desire because they're talking about like something that's in a dream. They're dreaming. They're talking about their state of desire. Two other things on rapport that I think is genius. So one, this is more pushed towards B2B. You're not really going to get this when working with the average Joe. Where have I gone? Oh yeah, I'm up top right. Hey, so if you're doing B2B, something that's phenomenal that you can do is get LinkedIn. You're probably all on LinkedIn. Look up the person that you're speaking to. I don't know if anyone here looks people up before they speak to them. Or
Actually,
is it
I gave this advice on one of my YouTube videos. We're so aligned, bro, without even knowing.
We are honestly, we are blood brothers. We really are. So something that I just to reiterate here, yeah, look them up, Google them. Now it's a bit frustrating if they've got the name like John Smith, because there's millions of John Smiths, but you can look them up on their website, especially if they're B2B, they're using their company email, look it up, and then look on their LinkedIn. And usually on LinkedIn, people will share like a great example is I was on a call with someone and I'm like, cool, well, look, before we jump on in, Scott, I was doing my research on you and your company, and I saw that, I think it was something along the lines of, it was the end of like Q2 and they ended up hitting their biggest quarter, or they hit a specific milestone in their business. So I said, I saw on LinkedIn that you'd recently hit your largest quarter in 15-year company history, or that you exited a company back in 2023. I'm curious, not everyone's able to do that. What would you say is you don't want to say like secret to your success, but you kind of get what I mean. Like, what do you feel like was your secret sauce, or what do you feel was the biggest, when you see that guy, the School of Hard Knocks guy, right, that's going around interviewing really rich people in Scottsdale, he'll ask these types of questions and they'll all smile. What do you feel like it takes to be a movie director or something? Like, what was your secret? And they all start looking up, so they go into a state of desire, right? And then they start talking about all of their great accomplishments in life. Do you think that's a better way to start a call, where they're in this state of desire? They've been telling you about their big accomplishments, their risks that paid off, rather than just being like, "Oh, all right, how are we doing?" Good stuff. And then getting them into a state of desire is just so unbelievably powerful to then set the frame of the call. And then you're immediately building a gap from the beginning of the discovery. So they're in a state of desire rather than a state of lack or a state of fear or a state of untrustworthiness. So that's a little secret that I don't think anyone knows. And then lastly is, if they've got a funny surname, well, not funny surname, if they've got a unique surname, then use ChatGPT or use Grok or use Google and find out where it's from. Wow. That's an easy one. If they've obviously Brunning and Bates are probably the most British surnames ever. But, if they've got a really unique surname that maybe sounds French, but they live in the US or something, you can ask, right? Or say, your surname is French, right? And I go, yeah, how do you know? Go, oh, funnily enough, and this is a little bit of a white lie. I hate to lie, but a little bit of a white lie that builds so much rapport through subliminal, whatever you want to call that. Is, you know what? When I was in high school, one of my friends had a very similar name that sounded just the same as that, or had that. You can say had that exact surname if you wanted to, and he was French, or he immigrated from French. Never happened, right? But it kind of pictures you guys together in some weird universe. And I've had some people where I've said that and they've ended up talking about, oh, well, my family came over on the Mayflower and then they moved to Canada and then they came down here. So it just opens up a can of worms, and they feel like the more that they have invested in you, not just with time, but with volume of about them, the more they feel like you know them, and the more likely they are to move forward because they've just committed so much to the call already.
Huge. Fuck yeah.
First, Alfie, your reputation precedes you in being here, so I can speak for everybody. We really appreciate the time. It's been a huge value already.
Pleasure.
And my question for you is, when it comes to the process of a call, because whether it's being in a big sales community like this or being on different offers with different organizations, there's proof of results in different processes, whether it's we get an overview, we go to goals, then we build a gap, or we jump into the challenges, or we just say, hey, how can we help you, to start the call off. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on the actual process, maybe what yours looks like, and also if there's nimbleness based on the prospect, how you apply that nimbleness as well.
What do you mean by nibbliness?
Nimbleness, say if you have one type of prospect, whether it's B2B, B2C, maybe your process adjusts, or maybe in your rapport, just you notice something based on that prospect and you say, hey, my process will adjust in the moment based on this brief interaction we've had already. Because I think a lot of people in the community are really trying to get good in remote sales. They'll maybe get really stuck on one process and go, well, so-and-so said this process, start with this opening question is good. Which way do I go?
Great
And I
question.
think we all are trying to find that, what's the word? What's the word we always use? I'll just stick with nimbleness, and understanding that different types of processes work to get results, and just kind of finding your own way based on your intangibles, your personality, etc. So I'm curious for you, what is your process? And if it adjusts at all, when does that process adjust?
That's a phenomenal question. And I'm glad that you asked. So I follow the DISC model for the personality types. I feel like it relates the most to sales. So you've got, and this, you can take the test. It's on Tony Robbins' website. It's not, he didn't make it, but he just has it available for some reason. And there's D, which is your very big drivers, right? It doesn't mean driver, but it means dominant. They are your type A personalities that you've probably heard of. They like to take control of the call. They know why they're here. They don't need to be going through this big sob story of discovery. They ask for the price up front. Those kind of guys, right? They're the CEOs, the entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs are D. You've then got C is conscientious. So these are your analysts, your engineers. They really are very doubtful. They're very analytical, too analytical for their own good. And then you've got I, which is influence, which are more your people pleasers, right? They thrive off social proof. They really want to see social proof. If you can show them that, they're in. If you can tell them there's a big community that they get to be a part of, they love it. They will lap up rapport like nobody's business because they just want to be liked. And then there is S, which is steadiness, which are those kind of like very stoic individuals that just don't seem that they fit in any of the other three. I will try my best to pick up on that. Now, you usually can by just asking them what they do for a living, to be honest with you. And they'll usually tell you, but there's always a few outliers. But really just picking up on, and I think I would really recommend that you do the DISC model assessment, because it will give you a massive breakdown on exactly how to sell to your breakdown. Because you might be really high D with a bit of C. You might be high S with a little bit of you really don't know, but it will show you how to communicate with that person. And there's so much information on each of them online, but a good example, to not make this a 45-minute answer, is to style flex as best as possible to different personality types. And it's kind of, sometimes folks say, hey, mirror them. That usually works with C's. Doesn't work so much with D's. They want to kind of feel like they're in control a little bit. So you've got to almost mirror them and just kind of meet them a little bit lower, where you're trying to just be really, really helpful, but you're not a C. You're bringing just below them. Like I said, with the I's, they really want to see social proof. They want to be friends with you. They want to, they thrive off rapport. And then you've got I's are those ones, and then S's they're probably the hardest ones because they're just so stoic. I would say with those ones, they're probably the most logical of everyone on the assessment. So I'd really just try and, if you're talking about the rapport side, I would probably double down on rapport with your influencers, the ones that are very heavily influenced. Probably get down to the brass tacks immediately with the D's. Like, cool, look, I'm sure we can chat all day, but I appreciate your time and I want to respect it. So let's just dive on in with those guys. And then the conscientious ones, big one for conscientious ones are, I will usually, especially if you've got several offers, and they usually go for this. Let's say you've got two offers. You've got like a 15K and a 30K, right? Or you've got a 6K and a 12K. I will tell them about both and then be conscientious enough, because they're all about risk analysis. They're all engineers. They're all thinking, like, what's the risk of ruin here? So on and so forth, right? Big engineering term. So I would say, but what we should do is we should start off with this package. So I would usually, and it sounds, your sales manager will bite your head off forever downselling immediately. But with C's, they always want to think about it. So it's much better to lead and downsell them immediately. I know that sounds crazy. I don't mean downsell them to like the digital course if you haven't got anything. But if you've got like an angel offer, which is like 30K, 40K, 50K, and most people get sold into like the 6K or the 10K, imagine that's like the main offer, and then be like, look, well, why don't we do this? We'll start with this one, really lay the foundation and the groundwork and so on. So just make them feel like we're taking the least risky option. Yeah, I feel like I could go on forever, but I feel like that gives you enough juice, I feel like, to take it and run with it. If anyone struggles to find the link to do the DISC assessment, yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to message me after this somewhere, and I can find it for you. But it's terrific. It's a really great personality test.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Tommy.
Alfie, nice to meet you. Yeah, so
Pleasure,
since
mate.
you've been in the industry for 7 years, I'm sure you've been through a ton of offers, different niches. I would like to understand your insight as far as what telltale signs were you looking for, as far as, when's a good time to switch offers? Was it just the money? Was it the team? And on that line as well, like, what's the main thing you think us as newcomers to the industry should prioritize, as far as making more money in the opportunity, or having a better team, or what's kind of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question on when's the right time to jump ship on an offer, as your first question there. Because it happens a lot, unfortunately, in this space. It's not exactly a salary position where, you're there for 10 years. You've usually got to jump ship pretty quickly sometimes. It takes a knack to figure it out, and like, oh, should I just stay here and keep staying here? And, and I've stuck through sometimes on some offers where, the ad account got shut down, or the ads fatigued all at once, or I think usually a big telltale sign is lack of fulfillment. If there's no fulfillment, if people aren't genuinely getting incredible results, I don't think it has longevity. So I would immediately bow out the moment things got tough, or even the moment things didn't get tough. There's no point earning 20, 30K a month, guys. Trust me. If you have to look back in a couple of years and think, wow, I sold 100 people into that offer and none of them, and they're messaging me on Instagram being like, hey, dude, I've not been able to hear back for a week. It's dreadful. It's the most depressing thing you can ever do. So as soon as you realize fulfillment sucks, leave. I think when it comes down to leadership as well, like, are they taking accountability for where things are at? Are they just trying to, are they being open and honest with you? Are they lying? And quite simply, if a better offer comes along, I would always jump ship. You're not an employee. I wouldn't try and have loyalty to companies that aren't really looking after you and really respecting you. I think sometimes we fall into this trap of being treated like employees with no employee benefits, and they will try and work us to the bone, and try and control us and try and message us on Sundays at 8 p.m. And it's like, what are you doing? So they actually get treated worse than employees, and we have no benefits. So I think it really comes down to how you're being treated, and probably follow your gut. Like if you don't feel like it's got the legs to achieve whatever you want to earn a month, whether that's 10K a month, 20K a month. But that being said, remember that you're trying to stack your resume, especially if you've only been in the space a couple of years. Sometimes it benefits you to stay a little bit longer to try and get 12 months there, or a little bit longer to try and get something a little bit more impressive. But usually, if you're wondering whether you should leave, 9 times out of 10, you probably should. Because the right offer, you should never be thinking that.
Perfect. And on that note, like on the other hand, like what are some things you look
yes.
for or prioritize on choosing a new role?
Big number one thing for me, and this is really the only thing I ask, is what are the current closers making? What's the top closer making? I trust myself enough to come in and match it or do better. I will also ask how they distribute leads, because I wouldn't want to join and the top guy's getting all the best leads and everyone else is getting the DQs. I don't really tend to ask what show rate is. I get peppered with questions all the time when I'm hiring for roles. Hey, what's the show rate? Hey, what's this rate? What's that rate? Was it, man? You know, obviously you want a good show rate, but if the top closer is making 30 grand a month, the show rate can be 5% for all I care. It doesn't matter. So yeah, big one is, has there been proof of someone earning what I want to earn? If there isn't, I'm not going to join it.
And
Awesome. Thank you.
super, super quick, because there was like a conversation that I had, and it was actually from Alfie, is like, how many closers are on that in terms of the amount of revenue they're doing? Is like, it's a bit of a red flag, because I had a conversation with a guy, he's like, yeah, there's going to be like 14 closers in the next couple of weeks. I was like, he's like, but we're going to scale. It's like, you're doing like 200,
and we're at
250K
a month.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care. Like, you might scale, but I don't want to take that risk. So it's a good understanding on there as well. And then I've had this happen to me. Like, you can message some of the closers on the team. Just ask them, how do they actually find things? That's normally going to be the easiest way to get the truth. Max.
Yeah, Alfie, quick question. I just wanted to ask, one of my old mentors, he always used to say, no one's going to buy from a friend. So I always, whenever it comes to rapport building, I'm always like a little bit nervous to like build too much rapport, be too friendly with someone, just because that advice is always in the back of my head. Would love to know your take on that. And then also, it's like at the end of rapport building, how do you sort of snap back? Are you literally like, okay, yeah, we could chat forever, but like, we've got 45 minutes, let's just jump straight into it. Like, how do you tie it back in after the rapport building?
Yeah, I just answered that in the chat, because I thought that was a really good one as well. Whether I don't know if it was you that asked it or someone else, but I don't overthink it. I just let it flow. There's no specific word track that I try and use. I'll just vibe it and go. Kind of exactly what you said. I'm sure, especially if you're getting along. Well, look, I'm sure we could chat for hours here, but let's get down to it. You kind of want to get ahead of that first and not have them be like, all right, man, well, look, let's dive into it. So yeah, that's how I do it. I'm like, you want to be the one that leads and then sets the tone for the rest of the call. So I'd be like, all right, dude, well, look, and sometimes it's a bit annoying because they're just going on and on and on. You've opened a can of worms, but yeah. All right, look, let's dive on into it, man. I wouldn't overthink it whatsoever. You can always say, look, I'm sure we can talk for hours, but yeah, nothing. What was your first question again? I remember it being really good, but I get so sidetracked.
It was saying, like,
oh yes, no one wants to sell to friends.
Yeah.
This is such a good question. One of the biggest sales coaches in the world, originally the OG sales coach. I know like everyone and their mother is a sales coach now on Instagram, even though they're like 15 years old or something, is Zig Ziglar. And he was a big proponent of like, you want to be, and I'm not the biggest fan of Zig Ziglar. I think a lot of his stuff can be outdated, but everyone just threw his book away and just thought, oh, but he was a big fan of like, hey, make people like you. And it's not like Oh, you like BMWs? I like BMWs. You know, you don't want to make it fake of like, oh, what football team do you support? So do I. You know, like you don't want to fake it, but like there's a good analogy in gap selling. And I think, yeah, no, people don't have to like you to buy from you, but it fucking helps, right? Because they're going to enjoy the conversation with you, especially if it's an info product, or even if it's not an info product. You are the representation of that brand. If they don't like you, they're probably not going to want to work with you as much. But there's a good example in gap selling where they talk about, I have a feeling they use Drake as an example or Taylor Swift as an example. Like, imagine you're a massive Taylor Swift fan, right? Or you're a massive Drake fan, right? Like, um, and someone that you know has tickets, a spare ticket, right? And imagine if you don't like him, are you still gonna go? Yeah, but you're probably not gonna have as much fun, and you'd be apprehensive to do it, and there would just be you'd have to do more kind of mental jumps to kind of convince yourself to go through it. But you'd probably still do it. So do they need to like you to buy from you? Absolutely not. We've seen that time and time again. I've seen closers that have done 25, 30K a month that they don't do any rapport, they don't even try and like the person. It's fine. But are you more likely to go to the Taylor Swift concert or the Drake concert, whichever way you lean, if you like the guy? It's an easy yes. So I think it makes it easier to get to a yes if they like you. Now, again, you don't need to be best friends with them, but it just builds so much more trust. And I think that's like I said, with it builds the foundation for the rest of the call. I personally believe that it makes every single other phase of the call, whether it's the discovery, where you're then able to get away with asking way deeper questions if you're doing a big identity shifting style offer and really making them really get down into like their fears and their regrets and where their worries for the future and the past. But yeah, I think more so B2C it's really, really effective, but I think with B2B as well, like because you're not taking them through this big rigmarole and it's usually B2B is very logical, you know, like if you're selling like a go high level breakdown, you're not exactly asking them what's going to happen if you don't get this handled, you know? So yeah, I think, no, you don't have to do it, but I think it also adds longevity to you as a human being in sales, which is a bit of a bold claim to say. It allows you to enjoy what you do. You're able to, and this is a wild comment, like, I'll call Scott up, and me and Scott are friends. We'll just be chit-chatting about random crap, you know, about how I think he looks like Orlando Bloom or, you know, how handsome he is or something like that. Like, I enjoy sales. And you get so many closers that burn out after 2 years because they're like, oh, I had this one setter hit me up on Instagram and she's like, I just don't know if I want to do closing. Yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I'm like, why? She's like, because I have to speak to like 6 or 7 people a day. I'm like, you get to speak to 6 or 7 people a day. It's such a different mindset shift. If you have to drag yourself through a call, if you aren't self-amusing and you don't thoroughly enjoy what you do, you are destined to fail. So yeah, I think it helps you enjoy your life a little bit more. I would dread taking, you know, I like to take like, especially if I'm closing full time on an offer when I really used to, I'd be taking like 10, 12 calls a day. But yeah, and you get a few no-shows here and there, but I want to enjoy what I do. And I think that the best way to enjoy that, you then bring your best your best version of yourself to that call. You're sharper. You're not like, fuck, I just wasted 45 minutes with that idiot and he didn't buy. You're like, well, I made a friend. You know, you're able to bring more positivity throughout your day. So there's primary and secondary reasons why I think it works.
And like, that's such a fucking important point because like I would say I'm not that social. I think Alfie's pretty fucking social. The side of why I like sales is like it's all of like the deep ingrained shit within it. Like I actually love the craft of it, right? Which is similar, but they're coming from slightly different angles. But yeah, like if you're that person that's just so resistant, like I fucking hate every single minute of this, you're gonna have a really rough time. But then like what Alfie's saying there, because I think that's important as well, is like by being that person that is building more rapport with them, it's not that you're more friendly with them, right? It's that you've built this amazing like friendship with them in some dynamics, but like he said, you can go deeper in the questions that you're asking. You can probably get a ton more commitment from the questions that you're asking as well, and you can be more like, so don't take it as like, oh well, now we're friends, so I can't be tough on them. If you had a friend, and this is something I say on coaching calls all the time, if you had a friend that was fucking up in front of your eyes, you would say, hey, you're fucking up right in front of my eyes. Right. So it's almost like, it's like having that acknowledgement of like, cool, like we've built a good relationship. So now I'm going to hold you even more accountable because you're a great fucking person. And if you can get that balance, I think I can imagine why. And I've seen I kind of flicked through. I haven't had a chance to go through like your calls properly, but like just the energy is great. But I know like you get to like a section, let's say like in the transition, you ask for like a decision. You can probably just lean on that. Hey man, like obviously, you know, we're pretty fucking tight now, right? So if we get to the end of this call, let's just avoid the maybes, right? You know, we all know that that's just a polite way of saying no to me. And it's like you've used that friendship as not leverage, because that makes it sound a little unethical, but you get my point. It's like, hey, like I'm doing this for you. Yeah. Are you good?
That's really good. That's really good.
Thanks,
man.
I
like that. One quick example to make is, Max, we've just met. I don't know you from Adam, unfortunately. Hope I do one day. But I wouldn't be able to, like, for example, if Max, you called me directly after this, right? Compared to Scott called me directly after this with a problem, right? Or that you were getting in your own way. I can be like, Scott, you're being a fucking pussy, dude. What are you doing? Like, I can stand for him as a friend and be like, come on, man, this isn't you. You're a fucking stud, right? It's not that I don't know whether you're a stud or not, Max. I'm sure you are, but like, I don't have that relationship with you to call you out on your shit without seeming like I'm just a salesperson. I'd rather be seen as not necessarily a friend, because I'm not going to be I'm not going to be able to be, I'm probably never speaking to this guy again if they don't buy, but like, I'd rather be seen as someone that they like and that someone that genuinely cares about them as a human being, which I do, than just a closer. Because people hate salespeople and we can never get away from that.
Yeah, that's solid. Thank you.
Are you good for time, Alfie? Just for like these last couple questions.
I'm actually done. I'm done today, so we can keep ripping.
Bro, aren't you in US hours? You're done today? What the fuck is this part-time?
That's light work, bro.
It's 8 p.m. for me
like
and I'm not done. Come on now.
I don't like to work too hard. A couple meetings a day, that's me done.
Jake.
Alfie, one of my mentors in sales, he says the number one asset of a closer is state management. Particularly like you said earlier, there were days you were taking 12 calls a day, and being able to go from call to call, refocused, re-energized for each individual prospect. It's a lot of work. And I'm curious for you, what do you do when it comes to your state management to make sure you're showing up fully present and at your best on every call each day?
Mark, you are 2 for 2 on phenomenal questions today. And that's a lovely one and a really useful one for everyone else on the call. Someone years ago told me that you've got to be unshakable, like an oak tree, you know? So I think half of it is what you can do, and then is your mindset and the belief that you have. If you feel like you're the kind of person, or if you tell yourself that you're the kind of person that gets bothered and gets affected and gets annoyed if someone doesn't close, like, you've already lost, you know? So like your belief going into the day on whether you get affected by emotions or not is the most important. Like the story you tell yourself is the most important thing. I tell myself I'm completely in control of my emotions. Doesn't always happen, right? I'm human. But that's the story I like to tell myself as much as possible. I think realizing, and I think this just comes down to like genuine experience, but I think you can shortcut it just from what I'm about to say. Like you can have 8 calls in a day, 7 can be a total waste of time and suck, and then the 8th one is perfect. But if you go into that call like you've just sucked on 7 calls, or you blame yourself, or you're not going into it from like a solid, like, hey, I'm ready to dance, you could probably lose it. So like state management, and just knowing state management is important, is vital. I think there's a few things you can do. I'm big into NLP, so you can anchor yourself to a specific state through playing a song. What I would do is I would jump on Zoom a couple minutes early, and it would always be on the recording because it would automatically record, but I would play a song. Now, whatever your favorite song, I don't care if it's, you know, Fleetwood Mac, I don't care if it's, you know, classical music, but choose a specific song that gets you hyped up. Yeah, I don't know whether it's, you know, some rap song, some whatever, the Top Gun, and something that like gets you pumped. as if you're in the locker room of a of like an NBA thing, right? Just about to go out. That's what they do, right? Like I think Kobe used to do that. I think a few, like anyone that's high performing usually anchors themselves to a specific state. So that's what I would do. Get yourself pumped up, get yourself excited. Yeah, that's probably my biggest one is like anchor yourself to a specific state. Listen to it every time you. It's like Jordan Belfort used to do it with that sniffy thing, like the herbal like Vicks Vapor Rub sniff. You can do that every time you get a sale, and then do it before your calls as well. So yeah,
Dude, that's so funny that like I talk about the smelling stick thing on one of the YouTube videos as well. Like I didn't realize we had the same level of knowledge on a lot of shit.
We're twins, bro.
That's why Cole Gordon, I don't know if anyone's seen that, he has that trampoline in the back. He's got like a little miniature trampoline in between calls. He'll jump on that shit. It's pretty impossible to be in a bad state when you're fucking hopping on a trampoline for 1 minute before a call. Like you're bouncing around like an idiot. You're not going to be in a bad mood after that. You're like, damn, those last 4 calls were shit. I'm going to hop on this trampoline. Jump on the call, you'd be like, oh, I'm fucking good. Doesn't matter what you do. Fucking seductively dance in front of a mirror and just laugh at yourself. Like, you can just shake it off. And that was I used to struggle with that a lot, like really, really badly. And anything you can do just to shake it off is game over, because I have the same belief with Alfie where it's like, I genuinely believe, and it's easier to say than to do, but I believe when I'm like 40, I'll have full fucking control of it, because it's a long process, but like, I control all my own thoughts. It's only my fucking upbringing and rewiring and all these bullshit environments that I've had around me that have affected me and gave me doubt that I can control my own thoughts. So that's the perspective I look at it. I was like, damn, like I'm feeling low right now. I'm choosing to feel that way. Why am I choosing to feel that way? How can I snap out of that? And whether that's a fucking trampoline, whether it's a smelling stick, whether it's, I genuinely used to play the Top Gun anthem. If anyone hasn't heard that anthem, like play it, you will feel amazing. Play it and put some aviators on and look at yourself in the Zoom camera. State management fucking finished.
Close rated go up 10%. Easy. Just from doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. I've got another question really quickly. So you said you don't call out the procrastination, but you make them think that they don't have it. What would you say about if you called out their procrastination and made them like overcome it? Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. So I don't believe in calling people out that much because it's super combative. A human being's biggest driver is staying consistent with who they are perceived to be, not just by society or by the other person on the call, but also by themselves. So it's just staying consistent with who they perceive themselves to be and how other people conceive them. So if you can then label them like that procrastination thing. So instead of kind of calling it out, I can't think of a good example when calling it out would be good. So for example, they say, I want to think about it. I mean, you could probably get away with it and be like, look, man, you're procrastinating. We got to do this now. And then you're stepping into this coaching frame of like, you're coaching them there and then. But I'm always a big pre-handle guy. So I would usually try and, get it out in the open, laugh about it, that they're not that, and then you can follow up with a question like, I'm curious, like, how come you're not procrastinating? Like, what is it specifically that keeps you, like, what's your secret? Like, what is it that keeps you from procrastinating? Oh, I love taking action, man. Like, if you don't take action, you don't succeed. Something like that. Yeah. So I wouldn't specifically, I don't know, Scott, you very well may disagree with me, but I think calling people out, unless it's at the end and it's a very like coaching style offer and you can be like, look, dude, this is the reason. And you can get away with it then when you're like, look, we've spoken about this. This is the reason why you've not been able to succeed over the last 7 years. I think at the very end, you could get away with it. Yeah,
I've said this on core reviews. People have this misconception. Like, I'll do a core review and I will be challenging with them, but I always say like, you got to bridge it with a bunch of questions first. Like we got to get into that because 90% of the time, if you're asking the right questions, you can get the truth from it anyway. Right, you can get a layer of commitment, or you can like challenge them around that. Like, well, why do you think you've been that way? Are you planning to continue being that way? And that's challenging, but it's not just saying like, hey, this is the problem, you've been procrastinating. Right? It's like, why do you feel like you haven't got this result so far? Where's your focus now? What's been holding you back in the past? Is that going to hold you back going forward? Why is it suddenly important to you now? What shifted recently? And it's like, it's sort of with a challenging tone, But it's not like, hey, your problem is procrastination. Like, are you gonna fucking do that anymore? No. Oh, okay, cool. We're good. Like, but if I do all of that and then at the end they're like, yeah, well, give me some time. 100% I'm fucking hammering them. Hey man, like right now you're just stepping back into that old identity. Like we already had a conversation around this. Don't rob yourself of the future that you've literally told me that you're committed to. Like then I'll go coaching mode.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I feel like that's going to help a lot.
There we go.